This is a prime example of trying to shill out of both sides of your mouth, but ultimately end up talking out of your ass as a result. Hello, this is Mario Jade, and I'm back with another video, and shill is going to keep shilling for Rings of Power, even though Season 1 has come and gone since mid-October, and Season 2 is a ways away from even premiering at this point. But yet they had to start circling the wagons around Amazon Studios and the showrunners, lest people forget Season 1 even fucking premiered. Case in point, it's fallen off the Nielsen ratings chart. That's how lackluster of a reception, I'm being very generous when I just say lackluster of a reception, Season 1 has garnered for Amazon Studios with Rings of Power. But like I said, shill's gonna keep shilling. They gotta circle those wagons, and here is case in point. Trying to talk out of both sides of your mouth, but ultimately, Sarah, ended up talking out of your ass by saying Rings of Power's canon changes means Legolas can appear in Season 2, while ultimately admitting in the subtitle that he shouldn't, per the actual canon. Per the actual lore, he shouldn't. It would be problematic to use the word they love to throw at us, pretty much. But at any rate, I'm not going to go into the entirety of this article. I'm going to point out the absurdity of this individual's points, if there even is one, and how ultimately she's talking out of her ass, not just within this article. But at any rate, let's dive into this so we can get a gauge of how far up her ass her head is right now. So here it is. Tolkien canon changes in Rings of Power have been massive, which makes an appearance by Legolas in Season 2 a possibility. Of course, the show won't add characters who physically could not be alive, but the writers have been stretching the meaning of could. Given that Rings of Power only had so many hours of programming to work with, and that Tolkien didn't flesh out the Second Age as the First and Third Age, fuck you, Sarah Richards. He did actually flesh out the Second Age. He wrote the Silmarillion at the same time he was writing Lord of the Rings. He actually finished it before Lord of the Rings, and he wanted to publish it before Lord of the Rings. But his publishers ultimately wanted a story in line with The Hobbit. So they did not want to publish the Silmarillion per Tolkien's request. They wanted to publish the Lord of the Rings. Silmarillion was written, bitch. Silmarillion was written. He had fleshed out enough at that point of the Second Age that there was no reason they had to actually include non-canonical characters or at all, if they had any rights to the Second Age materials, which you also point out in this article they don't have the rights to. A dramatic license is understandable. How about not fucking do it in the first place? That's an option, right? That's always an option, just not to fucking do it in the first place. Have some, at least, semblance of integrity about you. How about that? But retconning the birthdays of key canon characters might prove problematic. There's that favorite key word there. The canon changes that paved the way for Legolas to be in the Rings of Power stem from one particular thing. Amazon bought the rights to the entirety of Tolkien's principal works, namely Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, Return of the King, which is the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the appendices, and The Hobbit. The appendices include a timeline, so knowing what we know, that they don't have the rights to the actual canon of the Second Age materials, they had a timeline to fucking work with, and they butchered that, even. However, they did not purchase Tolkien's continuing publications. He actually wrote the Silmarillion, and wanted to publish it before Lord of the Rings, but, why am I expecting anyone in the media to even know this? Including the Silmarillion, the Unfinished Tales, and the History of Middle-earth. This means the creators of the Rings of Power had to come up with clever but convoluted solutions to explain key elements of the earlier Tolkien world without drawing on forbidden materials like the Silmarillion. In other words, they are wide open to tweak and twist all they want. Again, how about just not fucking do it in the first place? How about just not do it? It's like the studio, Paramount Plus, that gave us the in-name only Halo show. No rights whatsoever to the actual materials, or at least they had the materials and chose not to do it. So at that point, why even do it in the first place? And I know that's a rhetorical question. I'm kind of rambling at this point. I know it's a rhetorical question because ultimately, they're not going to admit it, but it boils down to they want to tell their own story, and they're going to use a vehicle to do so because they want to bring in audiences, trick audiences, lie to audiences, and so forth, to get their butts in seats and watch whatever works they're putting out. Because they want to tell their own story with their own messages and their own agendas to it. Not to do any service whatsoever to the actual author itself. Namely, in this case, Tolkien. So how about this? How about, instead of playing fast and loose with stuff that you have no rights to whatsoever, fucking just don't do it at all. Show some integrity for once. But again, you know, it's the entertainment industry. Entertainment industry, basically, you could like throw a stone and hit several people who have no integrity before you hit one that has some. Pretty much. Alright, so I'm not going to go into this. I'm going to kind of scroll down to here. I'm going to post a link to this article in the description if you want to read it at your own leisure. More power to you. Okay? So here also points out having Legolas appear in Rings of Power is no more a canon distortion than having Gandalf there, because I call that character not Gandalf. Very on the nose at this point that that's the way that they're going with the stranger character in the Rings of Power. That's why I call him not Gandalf. The wizards, the Astari, weren't sent to Middle-earth until roughly 1,000 years into the Third Age, so having any Astari whatsoever in Rings of Power is already a canon break. It's already a break from canon, but at the same time, they're not adapting the actual canon. It's not an adaptation. The people who try to claim it's an adaptation need to really look up that word because they're not using it appropriately or in any correct form whatsoever. Because an adaptation is adapting, to use the word again in the definition, the actual work. And as you point out up here, Sarah, as you point out up here, they did not purchase, they don't have the rights to the actual second age materials. So you're trying to put as positive spin as you can on this, but you're talking out of your ass, Sarah. You're talking out of your fucking ass at this point. Because Legolas, per what we're given, alright, the knowledge that we have with the actual lore, was not born until early in the Third Age. So he couldn't appear in the Second Age, nor could Gandalf or any of these Astari appear in the Second Age. But you're saying Amazon is under no obligation to adhere to the canon. Which, to stretch that little statement out, is true. But at the same time, that just shows you how duplicitous and without any integrity whatsoever Bezos has. And under his little minions underneath him, and the showrunners and so forth. Because Amazon purchased the rights to certain works, did not have the rights to other works. And still gave the go-ahead for Rings of Power. Still gave the fucking go-ahead. Fish rots from the head. Fish rots from the head. That's how the saying goes. And who's at the head? Bezos. He had every opportunity, every fucking opportunity under the sun to say, no, we're not going to do this. But he chose not to. He let people with political agendas run Amazon Studios and run this series. Let showrunners who lied to fans and kept lying to fans still lie to fans, because lo and behold, you're saying that they have no obligation to canon. Well, how about this? In October, literally the day that the finale aired for Rings of Power, the showrunners are claiming that Season 2 will be more canonical. So how can it be? How can it fucking be, Sarah, that they're claiming that it's going to be more canonical, and you're saying that they have no obligation to adhere to canon because they're already playing fast and loose, and they have no, and you're fucking admitting, in so many words, they don't have any rights. They don't have any rights to do so. To adapt anything from the Second Age materials. So this is literally studio fiction. This is not fan fiction, because fans, actual fans, would have not done this shit in the first place. This is agenda-driven studio fiction. And no matter how much of a positive spin, no matter how many sides of your mouth you try to speak out of, you just ultimately speak out of your ass, Screen Rant, and Sarah Richards, the writer of this so-called article. But at any rate, what are your thoughts down in the comments below? Do you have any hopes for Season 2 rectifying anything that occurred in Season 1? Did you watch Season 1? Did you like it, not like it? Are you in the middle? Or if you didn't watch it at all, but you consider yourself a Tolkien fan, what's your favorite of Tolkien's works? Did you like the Lord of the Rings adaptations? Did you like the Hobbit adaptations? Let me know all that fun stuff down in the comments below. I normally would be live on Twitch later on this evening, but because I have to get up on the much earlier side tomorrow, for those who have been following my Twitch channels and YouTube channels on live streams, I have mentioned that I got my subpoena. I've been subpoenaed for a case involving a drunk driver that hit me several years ago. I have no idea what to expect, but tomorrow I have to meet with the DA at 8 a.m. at the courthouse. Chances are, according to my brother, there's a plea deal already in place, and I just have to be there to get the lowdown on the details for that plea deal, but I have no idea, that means I would have to get up by no later than 5:30 in the morning to take care of stuff and be able to get out of the house, so I get to the courthouse in time for the 8 a.m. meeting, pretty much. So, like I said, normally I would be live on Twitch tonight, but I have to take tonight off as a result of that and just relax. But tomorrow, I've been running some tests. Hopefully, I got the settings fixed for Streamlabs, because I have an Ethernet cable attached from my CPU to the router that I'm using. So hopefully I don't run into any of the issues that I've been running into and so forth. I'm going to run some more tests, and so hopefully tomorrow evening I'll be able to return to Twitch, Jade_Fire, so come check that out. I'll either be playing some more Call of Duty multiplayer, or maybe some Destiny 2, returning to that. We'll see, but at any rate, if you like this video, leave a thumbs up, share on social media if you will. This is Mara Jade. Catch you on the dark side, and keep circling the wagons, bitches. You ain't gonna fucking win.